All right, welcome back to Judging Bouncing Balls. Toby, how you doing on this fine Wednesday night?
Oh, we're doing great. Great. Quite the past couple of days for the almighty loons. And yeah, kind of a wet week, but we need the rain, so we're okay.
It's true, man. It has been like raining nonstop. I don't know about you, but it's been like it's supposed to be 4 or 5 days in a row. And yesterday there were moments where it just poured and had crazy lightning storms. So for the middle of October, it's kind of nuts for us to be in the midst of all of this heavy thunderstorms. It's a little odd for Wisconsin.
Yeah, I left Monday morning, drove all the way out to Worthington, Minnesota, which is about 7 hours to the west. Had dinner, had two stops for customers, and drove back on Tuesday. It's pretty amazing.
Nice
I
little week.
I did let's do a little couple episode podcast, just critique us a little bit, and A plus as usual.
Well, to those of us watching live stream, hopefully I'm going to be caught up here. We had another one drop today. We hopefully will have another one from a past episode drop on Thursday, and I'm going to get us caught back up. I had a little technical difficulties. I think I figured it out. So apologies about that, but hopefully we'll get that all rolling and ready to go here. So
But hey, there hasn't been a lot of hate mail, so we're okay yet.
that's true. I did see when I posted it though, we got like 7 views almost immediately on that episode. I was like, okay, somebody out there was waiting for it. So, and it
Somebody
wasn't me.
cares. I like it. Right.
So anyways, yeah, so that was good. So hey, let's start with the loons first of all, because that is obviously if they're followers of the team, they know. But tell us a little bit about the loons and the state cup championship.
Well, as everybody know, we've documented the trials and tribulations to get us to the championship round, which was Saturday. They moved the game to 11:30. There was some weather. We were talking, was it rain? Was it mist? Do we wear 1 inch cleats? Do we go 2 inch cleats? Do we have to, slip in some new cleats? The good thing was we stayed with the cleats we had. Um, but yeah, we played the Wave out of Milwaukee. They're a formidable club, not really at the
Hmm.
'08 level, but that's on them. This is a team, if you go back weeks, we beat their D60 14 nothing, which we talked about also. Quite
Yeah.
quite sad. And then they brought in, and like we discussed, their best team, their national GA team, whatever GA stands for, Girls
No,
Academy.
yeah, GA, let's just pause there for a second. GA is respected at the highest levels along with ECNL. So usually when you hear about ECNL and GA, those are the two respected nationally clubs. No, whether that's deserved or not, that is just the reality of it. So, all right, continue on.
Yeah, so the game started. It was a nail biter. I think everybody was nervous coming out of the house Saturday morning. Right, the ride over was a little quiet with the kids. Macy didn't talk to me or my wife. She put her earphones in and we played our tunes. We always have a couple of play songs that we ramp up to, and me
Some
and my wife were
bangers.
into them. And then, yeah, you turn around and she wasn't even paying attention. Eek. So that was fun. Free parking. The sidelines were packed. I was very thrilled that I know Paul from the threw it out to the O10s, the girls, that they showed up with quite a few. The 10 boys showed up. There were some, I think, sevens and some sixes I saw in the crowd. So it in the but there was some tension, right? Because so there was a text message or something that went out from our team manager that just said, that according to state rules, that there's no noise makers, which were pretty
What?
much we always, yeah,
We would never.
preposterous, right? So the cowbells and it's just a cowbell, right? I know Joe brought the vuvuzela one time this tournament, and
Did he?
and there was some yeah, right. I guess I don't know. I didn't see it. So there was some questionable, like, how are the parents going to react? The wave parents. We, of course, were positive in every direction. And if If you we did on our Facebook page, there is the game. Me and you, we broadcast our games, and then Joe helps. We have our resident ref Jake, and it is quite the listen. I'll be honest. I did listen to it. We did have some fun with the fouls. We went. Is it Jimmy Childs or who's the lawyer from Seinfeld? I forget
Oh,
how, but
what is his? And
somebody else did
I'll
listen.
find it
Yeah,
here.
okay. And we were every time that our kids got fouled, we were yelling words like preposterous and
Jackie Childs.
egregious. Jackie Childs. So um, the fun part about because the game before we played them, right? There was some chirping. They weren't happy with some of our moms being on our kids, so they were yelling, back at them, and I'm like, well, I stretched. I didn't know what was going to happen. I mean, I didn't touch my toes, but I thought about it. Um, so the best part was when there was a foul on us, and one of their dads turned to me and you and said egregious, and we're like, that was preposterous. And he laughed. He got a smile. Um, After the
It
game,
was,
I was going to go shake his hand. You talked me off that ledge. You didn't think that was going to be a good idea,
oh,
which
I just
I
didn't
agreed
know.
with.
And I'm not. I don't have
Right?
the ability to fight, so I. I said, let's just. You're going in there solo if you're on your if you go.
Look at these hands, Jerry. You think there's a lot of fighting them? No. Um,
Hey, you
but
know what I told you? You know what I told you though? That's totally inappropriate. It's lewd. It's lavacious. It's salacious. It's outrageous. That's the Jackie Childs quote.
that, see, we could have used that, but it was funny
We could
because you
have
pulled out the thesaurus at halftime, and we came up with monstrous and other fantastic words.
atrocious.
Um, Atrocious. There was so much anxiety during the game
Oh
that it
man.
really stayed in the middle. There were a couple good opportunities by us. They kind of made a run or two. There was one corner kick in the whole game
Yeah.
um, that they had early on, and that's how they score. So we kind of weathered that. Our goalie played phenomenal. Kata's out there she punched the ball over the top and did a big dive save, which was awesome. Our defense played
Yeah.
great. Um, and we were trying to just get that one over the top and try to get loose. And that didn't come till 12 minutes left in the game, 14 minutes left in the game.
Something like that.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, the throw in, they threw it in. I don't know if it was Aubrey or one of the girls picked it up to Annabelle, and she made a turn on the ball. I don't know, kind of shouldered the ball, spun
Yep.
around the defender, and she got loose. And the goalie came out with a great kind of an, oh crap, what do I do? Kind of buckled, and the Annabelle kicked it. It bounced off her, and it just rolled back. And have you watched the kick?
Yeah, I've watched it a few
There,
times.
yeah, me and you just yelling, "Hit it!"
Hit
like
it.
we were
Hit
coaching
it.
them. And your daughter came through, and I thought, and Paul actually meant, I thought she one touched it and then hit it. No, she took it, just hit it
Just
on
hit it.
the guidance of me and you and
That's right.
every person in America. Um, from about 40 yards out, it was a kick. And it went over everybody. And I'm like, okay, it's just going to fall and it's going to land in the net.
It's not that
No,
easy.
the wind just kept pushing it. It hit the top of the crossbar and it came down at an angle. And we're like, oh no. And then Sir in the middle guy goes, that's a goal.
So I've watched it, like I said, multiple times. There's two things that stood out to me that were really amusing. First, after Amelia kicks it, she like watches it go and she just stares at it. It hits and goes down, and then she goes like this, and she doesn't know what to do because she doesn't know if she scored. She doesn't know if it went in because nobody knew. They were all kind of like, "What happened?" And then when they point, they all freak out, right? Which that was pretty funny. The other one that I thought was really funny was Annabelle's going in for the shot, right? And your wife, I see her on the VO film. She's like, they kick the ball, Annabelle kicks it, and your wife is like, ah, and she turns around, doesn't even see the play. Amelia kicks it. Jackie's back is still to the play. The ball goes in. Jackie turns around and she's like,
and
Yeah!
her and Carrie look at each other and they don't know what to do, right? And also they start jumping up and down
Yeah,
and they
it was so good. It was such a
and
weird
the
play.
yeah, and if you go to our club's Facebook page or our 2008 Wisconsin Loons Facebook page, the pictures of right after the goal, the joy and just the excitement that happened.
Yeah,
They attack Amelia. Everybody's jumping up and down. They just keep coming in, wasting time.
of
Great.
course.
Yes. And then then there's 14 minutes in the game, and now you hang on.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I mean, we were still trying to maybe put the ball in the net a couple times. I mean, we're yelling to go in the corner. I'm just yelling words. I don't even know what they mean. I'm surprised we didn't get yelled at by coach for as much coaching as we did that led
We
them to
didn't do
victory.
too much. We did okay. We
No.
were somewhat composed, somewhat.
Did your daughter say that he was going to try to dribble it, but then she heard her father from above yell, "Eh."
I never have asked her actually. That's a true story. Scout's honor, whatever it is. I wasn't a scout,
Yeah.
but I honestly never asked her. I have no idea if she heard it, but yeah, we were probably that was probably the one time we coached a little too much. But hey, it all worked out in the end, so nobody cares.
Nobody cared. And from our view, because we were up 4 feet out of the ground, but it was wide open. I mean, there was just this glorious empty net, and
Yeah,
that's a tough kick. That's a
yeah,
tough kick.
yeah. That was fun. I'll tell you that was for of all the fourth what is that four straight state cups we've been in. That was I thought that was one of the more enjoyable victories. I mean, they're all the three that we won were all good. Don't get, I mean, the one that was the easiest was the 3-1, where we just didn't have to even think about it. But this one was
Right.
enjoyable because it was like there was a nail biter. Our nerves were so high. I mean, you could tell everybody's nerves were high. So it was a good one. It was a fun one. Definitely better than last year's.
Yeah, because that was the exact opposite last year.
Exact opposite.
But then we went over by the trophy, and the team took some great photos. And then me and you got our turn with the cup, which one of my favorite photos. Um, so for multiple reasons, I think if people are out there, go check out the Facebook page because Jeremy's sporting his attire, the LFG shirt, which is great. Um, and but what a day! And then yeah, and then all of a sudden it's over with, and we went across the street, had a beer, and
Yeah.
I was home by 6, and then that was it. Right? And just okay, done. No fire trucks, nothing.
See, that's the downside. You wish there was a little bit of
No,
fire trucks or something.
you still there? Yeah, some sort of fanfare. You
Oh
know, the
no,
club
did I?
posted they changed the. Oh, there you go. No, the club changed their page to our picture. You know, there's been a lot of pictures being added, which is fantastic. But now, yeah, back at it. Right, we had Tuesday night off, and we were at practice tonight, tomorrow night, and then we have 2 games this weekend, and then that's a wrap.
Yeah. Can you see
Well,
me?
plus that team out of Michigan lost. Yeah, I can see you.
Okay.
Oh,
Good.
I can't see on the.
Yeah, that's fine. I just want to make sure. I tried the mistake of I was going to go get the picture of you and I pulled up a new window, and apparently that made everything go haywire. So I closed the window, and we'll move on. We'll not have the picture. You'll have to go to
Yeah,
our Facebook page.
you're not showing up on the Facebook Live, Monsieur. Or
That's okay. That's you're the moneymaker anyway, so it's good.
yeah, well, I don't want to say it out loud, but
Yeah,
kind of
it's true.
truth.
It's probably
But so
if
that
my
was
wife
fun.
if my wife tunes in, she doesn't want to see me anyway, so it's all good.
Well, hopefully you'll pop back up here sooner than later. Um, but then some team out of Michigan that's in our E64 bracket tied Stars, I think. So our fate is in our own hands again. So we play the Jaguars out of Michigan and the Nationals out of Michigan this weekend. So if we go 2-0, we win the E64 league. Why does my
Hey,
wife say that I am not the moneymaker? This face is the moneymaker.
she's just trying to
Come
keep
on.
you humble. Trying to keep you humble.
It's
Haters gonna
hard.
hate.
It's
Haters gonna
really
hate.
hard. So if we win both games this weekend, does that mean we're now invited back to National Pro next year?
I have no idea. That I don't know.
Because for you people out there that don't know, by us winning State Cup, we punched our ticket to Kansas City. So we've managed to take our situation and pour gas all over it.
That's right. Uh, yeah. I don't know. I'm not
So,
sure. But
yeah.
either way,
Listen,
you
Paul,
know, we've done a good job. So either way,
I, like my wife says, I love winning. We are great winners.
really are.
The 2008 parents are amazing winners. And the
Hey,
kid, I mean, the kids are working hard.
so speaking of we're great winners, I just have to do this. So just pause for a second, Toby. See if this works.
There it is. The coach kind of directing a little bit and the girls following through.
It
That
was
was
very
fun.
short, but
Man,
it
that was
was
fun.
yeah,
Yep.
it was good. So
Yeah.
all
It
right,
was a great video by Joe. Joe was up in the business right up there with his camera and did a nice job.
he did a really good job.
Okay. Enough about us, right? I mean, we can brag and we can talk. There's others out there that haven't enjoyed that kind of joy on the soccer fields. So go ahead, watch the video.
Yes.
Paul's driving, so his daughter Serena's typing.
Uh,
Serene. So young and tainted.
well, here's the deal. Kimberly will come up a little later in the show briefly. But Amherst is fine. I don't know why Paul has to try to stir this pot, but Amherst is a just a fine school. I heard they won their first playoff game, so we're not going to talk about Amherst too much. They're just a fine school. Falcons.
Heinz School. Is that what they are? The Falcons?
Falcons. Yep.
All right. All right.
All right. So,
All right. Well, let's.
yeah, let's transition over. We brought this up last week, the Carly Lloyd interview where she talked briefly about the youth program. And so I was able to, I think, get this so that we could actually play it and you could hear it and then we could talk about it a little bit. So be curious to hear what your thoughts are if you're watching right now. Hopefully you can hear all this and then you can comment your thoughts. Paul, you can have Serene, chime in on her thoughts if you're interested. So let's get that up here. Carly Lloyd. Hopefully this works. Fingers crossed.
Differently or who doesn't fit the mold but is differently or who doesn't fit the mold but is just as gifted, just as talented? Is she going
All
to
right,
find
it's
it
thinking
difficult to
here.
break through still?
Computers.
I can hear it.
Perhaps, but I think there's so much fundamentally wrong that that's a whole nother episode.
Okay, let's start. Oh, well, what's wrong?
I mean, everybody, I think everybody's kind of on this, oh, it's okay, we'll bring in a new coach that ticks the boxes, we'll play a lot better because they'll come in, we'll technically be better, we want to possess the ball. I don't care what boxes you tick. There's no development at the youth stage. It's all about winning. You've got clubs that are in conflict, with one another, and it's all political, and it's who's all in ECNL and who's not, and what's fair, what's not. So you've got no players that you're developing up the ranks, and then you look at the youth national teams; they have been failing all of these years while the senior team has been winning. So everybody's turned a blind eye to that. And now, where are the players coming from? They're coming from all the way up. And I just look at this team and the champion mentality that we've had throughout the years, since the inception of this team, that dog mentality, you've got none of that. The character, the respect, technically, tactically, you could be great and have a coach that comes in, but if you don't have all those other things, there's no winning that's going on. And I think what we've seen with players, and you guys probably see it with the generation of players, it's different, right? like dog mentality in us, where maybe coaches didn't have to coach that or motivate the players. Now they don't have that. I look at the U.S. Women's National Team. I mean, Julie left, Julie Ertz just left, but aside from her, I don't see one player that has that mindset.
And who do you think that?
All right, so a lot of stuff there to unpack. A lot of interesting topics. One of the ones that I thought right away that made me think of this is the way that we run our ODP program, and I wanted to talk about this just a bit, and then Toby, you can expand on it. So I shared this a little bit while ago back in the summer, the way that they do the ODP program. And yes, Jackie, I agree on the dog mentality. I was very side note on this. Last year with our soccer team at Spash, we always said, who's got that dog mentality? We didn't even know this. So apparently we're that head of the game as coaches. But no, the ODP thing. I brought up that story about how they told Amelia when she tried out for the regional team at the ID camp that they knew who they were going to take already, right? They knew outside of like two players, they knew who they were going to take, and so this is reflective of what she's talking about. That there's not a lot of hard decisions being made. And if you go and listen to the rest of that podcast, and I would encourage you to do so, it's a really interesting interview. She comes back to this a couple times where a lot of the coaches aren't willing to make tough decisions to actually get the players better and be hard on the players and make them do extra to be able to be successful. And I just look at that example where they're like, oh yeah, we already know who we're going to take. Are they really looking for the best players? Or are they just so like, we're comfortable here and we're just going to be whatever it is? And meanwhile, that same team goes out and gets their teeth kicked in every year that they've done it. But yet nobody's willing to switch it up and change it. They're just going to continue to get hammered on the field, and no big deal. We'll just keep bringing the same players back because it's obviously been working really well for the Midwest region. She hit it on the head, in my
Yeah,
opinion. But
no, and you're absolutely right, especially with ODP, right? They always take the shiny, fast toy, that can fly around and is an excellent soccer player. And I'm not going to drop names here, but they take her every year. And
yeah,
what they don't have, and what teams we play in, and I think even the Wave had it, they're really good players, but they don't have a team. They have individual girls, and there are
yeah,
clubs down in the South that I hear this for, that it's all about individual. How do I get you into college? How do I show your
right,
talents? When you look at the '08 girls that were brought up through, and I'll give Coach Stone all credit in the world, they were all role players. They were all excellent at their job.
yeah,
They played as a team. They were willing to fight for you. And that's why our team has had such a great success. We've brought in
yeah,
some new pieces, and they've been great pieces, right? But in the games where there were some injuries and we needed the original girls, that original core, got the job done.
yeah,
And that is that dog mentality. And that is the mentality like, I am beat up, and Amelia's got bruises, Macy's got bruises, her whole arm was black and blue. But you need to play for your team, right? I mean,
yeah,
the individualistic, whatever is there, but when it comes down to it, your team has to play together,
yeah.
and that's, I feel, why we're successful, and I think that's why Midwest ODP, and Paul's done a lot of research on this and talked to others because his daughter Shireen's also in it. But when you go into the ID camp and they already know kind of what they're looking to do, then what are we doing there? Because they're not coaching you. You're
Right,
getting zero coaching. You'll see one or two age groups with good coaches, and you're like, well, that looks great,
right.
but what am I throwing my money at, right? So I think I think Carly Lloyd is absolutely correct too. This is all about winning. Um, the clubs change, not the clubs, but the E64. Last year we were Club B Club. Now there's ECNL. Then there's GA. There's Premier. There's no run at this where you're just trying to develop. I'm sure from the national point, who are your best players? We talked about early on podcast. You have a 15-year-old playing pro,
Right.
and she's probably really good, but is she good in a team mentality where she's going to play for USA? And I think that's why we had such great success with USA, is those girls came together and played throughout the years, and they played for each other, and they knew
Yeah.
their role. And
You
it's
know,
not
it's
the shiny. Look at what happened USA team this year. I mean, there was all this outside buzz
Yeah.
instead of just worrying about on the field.
It's funny you mentioned that 15-year-old girl because I thought about her because early on in that podcast, if you listen to the whole thing, Carly talks about USA Federation had certain players, in her opinion, and I'm giving her opinion, that they really promoted and they wanted to be the face, right? They were kind of handpicked. They were going to be the face of USA Soccer. And she doesn't ever name who those are. You can make your assumptions about who that might be based on what you've seen. But I thought of that 15-year-old girl because I'm like, you never want to say that somebody's not good enough, but I still always, like Amelia and I were having this conversation the other day. Are you honestly going to sit here and tell me that there's no other adult female that was better than that 15-year-old in the United States? I just have a hard time believing that from a physical development standpoint. And it's not to take away and say that she's not good and that she's not talented and, has some probably some really good skills. But I just have a hard time believing that of all the players, there was nobody better than her. And and then you look at it and you think, okay, when you hear that, and not only did she talk about how the Federation would handpick certain people, but then you have on there Clint Dempsey, who played from the men's side, and he's like, yep, this is true. He's like, she's not lying. They will do this. So then I started to think, like, did they just kind of handpick this girl because they wanted her to be the face? It was a good PR move. And so they're like, hey, would you do this? And she says yes because, her and her family are like, hey, this is a cool thing. Is she really the best player? It's hard to say, right? Maybe she is, maybe she isn't, but it makes you wonder when you hear insiders talking about how they're doing very specific things with players to try to make them marketed very well. And you just kind of wonder about a girl like that if she's part of that as well. I don't know.
Well, hands down. If you look at what our daughters went through this past year as freshmen, right? They're 14 and 15-year-olds playing 18-year-olds. Now our daughters are very good soccer players, but I always say that our daughters are great 15-year-old soccer players.
Hmm.
So, but when you get put up into and we've all played games this past year in high school where we played lesser opponents and everybody looks amazing. But when we were down at state and played Muskego, it was a whole different ball game. That was the best high school soccer in the state. And to get your point of the 15-year-old, yeah, you're absolutely correct. There are 19, 20-year-olds bigger in stature, faster, can move the ball better, but it's the marketing ploy, right? Look, we're talking
Yeah,
about a 15-year-old girl instead of just some random
right.
woman that made the team.
That nobody's
So I
heard of.
think they try to generate right, and I think the world tries to make up storylines so people get excited about it instead of just winning.
Yeah.
We all, you look at the Mia Hams and the Brandy Chastains back in the World Cup. I actually got to see the World Cup or the Olympic gold medal in Atlanta when USA beat China, I think.
Hmm.
I was at the game. We were down at the Olympics, and I got to go to that gold medal game, and that was fantastic. It was great soccer, and must beat up on China. At least I hope it was China. But you knew the team, right? The team was about winning. It was about pride. And somehow we've completely lost that. Now it's about marketing. And I mean, we're talking about it. How do I get our kid to get noticed? And you got to market. But at the end of the day, I still think a winning team is the best marketing that you can give.
Yeah, agreed. And it's funny because she talks a little bit about that as well, just the difference in mentality. Like when she got there and played with Mia Hamm, and she talked about how if she would deliver a ball to Mia Hamm's the wrong foot that Mia Hamm didn't want, she'd get just a butt chewing. But then as this all has progressed on, she said a lot of that culture of excellence when she first got there kind of started to go down the drain. And she talked about how right as she was leaving, she even said going into this, like she's like, we're not going to be successful in this year because she could see the writing on the wall in the last Olympics when we just didn't have the same culture that we had prior. And the other thing that she brought up that I thought was just fascinating, if you listen to this interview, is she talks about how as players they're all restricted on how much they can actually work out. So they have like a pitch count, for lack of a better word, where they're allowed to do a certain amount of reps and kick a certain amount of balls, and if they go over that they get in trouble. And so she would actually sneak out of her hotel to go get touches on her own outside of the club because if she did it with the club she'd get in trouble. Now just think about that for a second. And she brought up, things like Kobe. I don't think she brought up Kobe, but she brought up the great players. And she's like, do you think that they got better by just doing a specific number of reps and then never doing any more? She's like, that's the most BS mentality ever to have these restrictions placed on what you can actually do. She's like, I wanted to put the reps in and get the practice in and get better and perfect my craft. And she's like, they're over here telling me that if I did this, that I was going to get in trouble if I ran an extra sprint or if I, kicked 50 extra balls after practice. It was just ridiculous. And like the people on that panel are former professional soccer players. They couldn't believe it. I mean, it's just a weird mentality. Like, you're going to tell Michael Jordan, hey, you can't take any more free throws. You're done. You better just, head her out. There's no way. Kobe Bryant, there's no way. He's got one of the most ardent workout regimes where he would show up at 4 in the morning, get a workout in, then work out with the team, then do another workout. It's like he worked beyond belief. And because the great ones, that's what they do. So this idea that they restrict the new players right now, it's crazy. I just, no wonder the team's a little bit in shambles when you hear stories like that. Now, granted, it's her perspective. Maybe she's embellishing or jaded or whatever, but I tell you what, you can tell she has dog mentality. I don't know if everybody else does. So,
Yeah, and I think society as a whole is getting away from dog mentality, right? There's participation trophies and there's all kinds of things where you kind of dilute the winning, because winning, when you win, somebody doesn't win, and the society needs to understand that if you don't win, how do you win? You work harder, right?
right.
You do what you can. And in every sport, if all you're doing is waiting for your coach at practice to teach you the game, you're not going to go far. I mean,
No,
there's the secondary, and it's not private training. I mean, does that help? Absolutely, but it's getting into the park with your friends, going in the backyard, touches on the ball constantly. And my daughter was constantly in the driveway, juggling, doing everything she could with cones and everything, and it was like hours, and she's gotten better with it, and it's helped her tremendously. But if you don't do that stuff, you get pushed in the back seat.
yeah.
And now what happens is people in the back seat, they want back in the front seat, but they don't want to do it the right way, right? They want to do it by clawing and bitching about it. And well, I'm not doing that. Why? Instead of just saying um, that you have to work harder.
Right. You do.
Yeah.
It's funny. We were talking about this a little bit off topic, but we were talking about girls cross country for Spash recently, and it was kind of interesting because we have a fairly decent team, but they got put into a really tough sectional that had four or three of the top teams in the state were in our sectional, and Spash was included in that. And I was just kind of talking like Amelia wasn't running varsity at that time this last weekend, so we weren't there, but we heard about it and we're like, man, that's really a bummer because that's a tough draw for them to try to advance on, and they ended up coming in third. And I was just talking to Sarah about it, and I'm like, yeah, because there was another sectional that was not as competitive. I'm like, man, it would have been kind of cool if they would have been in that one. They would have gotten to go to state. And that all of a sudden when that came up, Sarah was kind of like, well, they still weren't going to win state. So what does it really matter? Just be better. And I'm like, yeah, but that's, it's state. But I started to think about it and I'm like, she's not wrong. They just have to be better because they're not going to win state at this point. If they can't even beat their sectional, why should they then be able to go on and then just lose? I mean, I get the whole you're going to state thing, but at some level, she's not wrong. You just have to be better. Just, it is what it is. It sucks.
Better, Bob, right?
Yeah, nobody likes to lose.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and she loves Spash more than anybody. It's her home school. It's where she went. She loves Spash. She would love for them to win state and be able to go. But the reality is, like, you just got to be better if you want to go. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, I don't. People get you get your butt flipped at sectionals, or you get your tail really kicked at state. Is there a better one? No.
Yeah,
If you go to state, you got to belong. And I agree. We talked about Notre Dame Bayport hockey, right?
right,
Best two
right.
teams in the state faced off in the sectionals.
It's a
And
great example.
what was her name? Head of the IA,
Oh,
WIA.
Tough Hauser.
Steph Hauser said, at the end of the day, best team wins. The best team won state. And she was much as I hate to say it, 'cause I'm a Bayport guy, Notre Dame's hockey team was fantastic. And
Yeah,
they
they
deserved
were.
the state title,
Yeah, their
right? And
recruits were
if
awesome.
Bayport beats them, they go on. Yeah, they go.
Sorry.
They got that housing unit going up. It's amazing.
But
Um,
no, you're right. They were the best team in the state and they won. So in the end, maybe it wasn't the way we all wanted it to look, but it was the correct result.
Max brings up a great point. Athletes today love winning more than they hate losing, which is the dog mentality. But that's not everybody on the team. You
Right.
used to have a group of guys or a group of girls that winning was everything. Holding the trophy at the end of the day was everything. Now you have girls or guys that play on a team that are happy to be on the team.
Yeah.
That, I might go down a level and play, but I'd rather sit on the bench on this level. Well, that only gets you so far. So what is your experience and where do you want sports to take you? Because if you're willing to settle and not work hard to play on the best team, I think that's where we are in society. We're just like,
Yeah.
Maybe middle management's for me, Then the Eddie from when he's holding out from middle management.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, if you can find a group of players, and I look at our 08 girls that are all in and
Yeah.
they're willing to get hurt for and give her hell, you win championships, and with that comes success.
Yeah, agreed. And they're equally happy for somebody else that has success on the team. It doesn't matter who does it. We've talked about this before too. There's a lot of balance. It's not like there's one person kind of carrying. There's a lot of girls that step up, and then one girl will step up another one week, and the next week it's somebody else, and that's a good team, right? It's just a good balanced team. So it's really cool to
Mm-hmm.
see.
I did tell you before the game, though, we needed Amelia to score. I'm just going to throw it out there. I felt it coming. Felt it was her day. She's had this unbelievable, and she does. So that was
Well,
excellent.
it was definitely, yeah, all on you.
Well, I'll be the first to admit I love it when my kid scores. I love it. Like, I really like it. But this
Who
one
doesn't?
I'm really excited for Amelia, right? I mean, like, as a parent, you kind of feel like
Yeah.
that's me out there, right? Even though I don't have that speed and I never had that speed, but I feel like that's my offspring. Like, look at her go, you know? And then her mom just shakes her head at me and, like, nah, it's not you at all. And I'm like, I get it, but maybe.
Right. Hey,
So,
what are you gonna do? But no, honestly, I thought the team played amazing. The defense was phenomenal. We don't give enough love to all the girls in the back row and in the goalie, but they all played phenomenal as well. So it was a really good team win. A really good team win.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I do have a question, though, and I don't know if Eric's still on as our executive director, but we've heard of kids going to GA, right, the Wave or FC Wisconsin, or moving to other clubs, Madison, that play at different levels, ECNL and all these. Are you better off on an ECNL team that goes 2-12? Are you better playing an E64 team that wins their league, goes on to National Pro, goes on to St. Louis, wins state cup? So that's a pretty big deal, a resume builder. I truly don't know the answer to that.
Hmm.
What do you get for going that level versus our level? Because I think our level has caught that, right? There was a reason why ECNL and soccer was so big, because they traveled all over the country and they were seen by a gazillion people. Well,
Right.
now we are starting to travel farther.
Pay more.
We've been to St. Louis twice, pay more, which is episode 2.
Something
But
like
we've
that.
been to Indianapolis twice. We've been to St. Louis twice. We've been to, we've been everywhere. And now you can add Kansas City and Orlando. Um, rumor of Las Vegas. Rumor.
Rumor.
Just throwing it out there. So I think it would be a blast.
I just thought of something. Um, the
You're still
recruit.
not on the screen, by the way.
I know it doesn't matter. The recruiting. Doesn't the recruiting window open June 15th? So theoretically, we could
For
have
our girls.
recruiters that would be able to watch and communicate with the girls at Kansas City.
We might be bringing this podcast on the road.
Theoretically, I mean, obviously it depends on if they actually are there, but they're at the age where they could actually, I think, start getting talked to at that tournament.
I am available to talk to if you're out there. I enjoy sweatshirts, hats. I need a car, a mortgage payment. Why not?
That's right.
NIL money is alive, so can they give back? I mean, I am allowed. I still have all eligibility left.
That's right. Whatever you need me, I could be a ball boy at the football games. Whatever you need, I'm possibly available for the right price.
I need a dorm room, single, not sharing. I need a shower by myself. I don't want to share that either. I would like a meal plan,
Mm,
and a parking spot.
okay. There you go. So I just
Pretty simple.
thought of that just now though. I'm like, man, theoretically there could be. Now I don't know if there's actually going to be. I don't know how this works, but I guess theoretically there could be some coaches there.
Yeah, technically we're just about to jump into the fire, right?
Yeah.
We got high school. We got our last games. We have National Pro League, and then we go high school, and then we jump into that phase. That'll be an interesting phase. I got to live a little bit with my other daughter in the tennis, D3, which was great. But we have our official visit next week.
Nice.
Yeah, looks like I'll be buying a Spash or a Stevens Point sweatshirt.
Dang right. Get used to that purple and yellow.
Yeah, it's a dog.
That friendly dog. Good. So, anyways, that's kind of where we're at. That puts a bow on it. That's going to come after the spring season for us. But yeah, book your tickets. Start looking for a hotel down in Kansas City. Come join us down there. It's going to be beautiful weather, I'm sure. Yes, go dogs.
Oh, I'm sure it'll be just hot as all heck. Hey, are you just to quick? We're starting to look for plane tickets because they're really cheap right now. So
I'm sure.
just
So
what you wanted to hear going into the holiday season.
you're not going to drive down to Kansas City?
It's like 9.5 hours.
Yeah, it's child's play.
Actually, me and Joe talked about if you want to jump in, we're going to fly the moms and the daughters. And me and Joe are going to road trip this bad boy.
Cannonball.
Yeah. 6 or 7 cases of Red Bull.
We'll see. I might be able
Turkey
to.
chew.
We can maybe talk into that. That'd be good. Are you just going to do a one-way flight and then make them drive back?
No, that'd be bad. That'd be real bad. They'd fly back.
Okay. All right. We'll see. We'll see how that all works.
Options on the table. Yeah.
All right.
But now we have another topic. So that was kind of wrapping up last week. So we talked about Carly Lloyd, and then but now we had talked about some injuries that that we had early on and that continue to happen. But you had listened to a podcast or a news outlet about football.
Yeah, so we're going to change gears here a little bit and go into football. So this was on WTMJ. This is Steve Scafidi. He has a show on in the mornings. What's interesting about his show what I watched is he covers a lot of topics. I mean, they opened with the Packers. They went into the Israel-Hamas conflict, and then they went into coaching. It was like, what? This happened. So that was and then I think he ended with like politics. It was like sports, politics, sports, politics. I was like, okay, whatever. But anyways, what was interesting about it, I saw this on Twitter, was the declining enrollment in football. So I'm going to play a little clip. It's a couple minutes long where they're talking to a former football head coach discussing the recent statistics that came out about Wisconsin being the leader when it came to declining enrollment in 11-man football. Now, to be fair, we'll talk about a couple other things, but we were not leading the nation in enrollment or declining enrollment in football. So here's the clip.
Leads the nation, all 50 states, in the decline. So is it the weather? Is it the risk? Why are we leading the number of people declining in participation in high school football?
when I saw that, I thought that was kind of crazy because just from what I know, the players I've coached or seen, it seems the opposite. But with the success of some of the people coming out of the state in other sports, like the Tyler Heroes, I've seen a huge growth in basketball participation. People who want to be that next Tyler Hero because they saw him growing up. He's from the Milwaukee area. Those influences. I mean, when I was in high school, it was the Joe Thomases, the Nick Haydens. So that football still had that driver, and we haven't had a huge player like him. I mean, it's been 15 years or so that we've had a player like that. So I think that could play an impact in it as well.
That was my next question. Brian Medina joining us from the Tri-County Contracting Hotline, former high school football coach. What changes the perception? The injury thing is a tough one to get around because moms and dads have a lot of power in that decision, although their kids sometimes talk them into it. What changes the conversation so Wisconsin doesn't lead that national decline?
I do think it has to do with the youth football. It's not just falling on the high schools anymore. It's, are those youth football programs tied to the high schools? Is there a good leadership program, top to bottom?
And good coaches make a difference.
Absolutely. I mean, look at the best programs in the state. They have a long-standing history. Those numbers don't dwindle. They continue to grow. Like when I was at Memorial, our senior roster was I think 25 people. Now it's massive. You look at the Arrowheads. I mean, look at Kimberly for however long it was. You have all these different schools that have had those historic rises, and those kids played because their dads played there, or they have family members that played there. And those coaches come back, or they go to other schools. Nick Vitale went to Memorial, now he's at Tosa West. I mean, you've got some good programs with some good coaches, and that's going to continue to build those legacies. So a good coach leave Wisconsin Lutheran to Neuer. Now look at what that program's like now. They don't have a youth program anymore.
Wisconsin leads.
All right. So there you go, right? Wisconsin leads the nation in declining football enrollment. So what are your thoughts, Toby? Why do you think that is that Wisconsin is lagging behind everybody else?
What's weird is if the national average isn't declining because there's other sports, right? There's lacrosse, there's rugby, there's soccer's actually growing leaps and bounds. So to me, that's where the kids would be going. But in our area, his comment was interesting about how Tyler Hero, is it Hero out of Milwaukee, the basketball players playing in the pros, and there's been some unbelievable talent coming out of that area. So our kids looking up to that, saying, I want to be the basketball player, instead of there's no football players, really homegrown football players like there used to be.
Yeah.
That was an interesting take. The injuries, so they blame football on injuries. But I don't know if it's the injuries themselves or just people aren't willing to send their children into football. They're not playing. I don't think they're playing tackle as when we did.
Mm-hmm.
They're playing a lot of flag football, which is great. I did some research, but it says football is the most dangerous sport for kids under 15. And basketball is the most dangerous sport for kids 15 to 24 kids.
Interesting.
So that's it. Yeah, because if you play football, if you're not playing at a young age, you're playing more football from your high school years than anything else. And actually, the injuries aren't in that sport.
That's interesting. Yeah, I would not have guessed basketball being the most dangerous from that age group. I do think that took a hit, especially when the whole CTE thing happened. There was a growing sentiment of parents not wanting to expose their kids to that possibility, especially at a young age, which I don't think is unfounded. I mean, there's research that shows your brain is not fully developed, or I shouldn't say it's not fully developed until your mid-20s, but it's even at more risk or a higher risk at a younger age. So the more you can minimize, banging your head around, the better. So I do think that probably plays a role. They mentioned that one of the reasons that might lead to it is that there's actually a growing amount of 8-man football within Wisconsin, whereas maybe that's not always the case in some of the other places nationally. But yeah, to your point, nationally, the enrollment in football was actually up, but Wisconsin was down 25%, which you can't really blame it on COVID at this point. We're far enough past COVID that that really shouldn't be an issue. And we're seeing a lot of enrollment in other sports increasing. So, some of that COVID hangover is probably not as relevant. So, yeah, there's a lot of things that could point to it. I do think the youth program, if you have a weak youth program in whatever sport it is, you probably are going to struggle to have a good program in high school, or you're going to have lower participation. But I do think that, to your point, there's also just the availability of other sports plays a role. I mean, in that podcast or in that little show, they talk about how when they were going to high school, there were like a few sports and that was it. So everybody played those sports because there was no other option. Now you can, three, four, sometimes five sports in your gender each season that you can participate in. So, you don't like being in football, well, run cross country or go swim, or not swimming, that's in the winter, but if you don't like football, you can do cross country or soccer, or you could go do a club sport or do something else. I mean, there's all kinds of different stuff for players. So I think that does play a role.
Actually, the state champion 2008 girls coach chimed in, and he's got a great point. Clubs no longer are a season, right?
Yeah,
Soccer is you take July off, and we used to get the November, December off, but now with what we're doing, so if you played a boys sport and played soccer and you were good at soccer, football might become a secondary sport because football is not a club sport; it's just strictly a high school sport.
right.
Um, we've talked about it. You used to thrive on multi-sport athletes. Yeah, that's all great in theory nowadays because if you want to be good at something, you almost have to pick one, which completely
Yep.
sucks. But at the end of the day, that's just how it is. So is football just taking that back seat because it's got the black eye from from this American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons. Hello. Between 2017 and 2021, concussions are down 64%.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So on the football side, so we talk about the injuries are driving the decline. That's actually not the case because the injuries are declining.
Hmm.
Um, so I think people are picking up other sports. I think people are in clubs. I think the drive to
Specialization.
play college specialization, the drive to
Yep.
that everybody wants to play college ball, it might be driving the fact of, that's why I'm going to specialize in something and try to succeed in that.
Yeah, I'm with you. Those are great points. So I just think there's a multitude of factors. I don't think, and they talk about that in there too. You can't just point at one thing and say, yeah, this is the reason. But yeah, it's just kind of interesting that the sport has really declined. And I do think there is some truth to not having, especially in today's day and age, not having somebody that's kind of from your area that's pretty good. I mean, I know there are NFL players that have come from Wisconsin, don't get me wrong, but there's not anybody that's kind of been, I mean, the last big star we had from Wisconsin is probably Tony Romo out of Burlington, or I mean, I wouldn't call Ryan Ramczyk.
JJ, well,
He's one of the best tackles in the league, but usually your offensive linemen are not stars, right? And so it's kind of
JJ Watt or the Watt family, but that wasn't
correct.
Northeast Wisconsin either.
Correct. No, and that's a good point. Those are really good players. So you could maybe throw them in the mix, but yeah, it just maybe hasn't generated some of the excitement that if you had a player like a quarterback or something that was going to get a little more of the headlines and the star power. There's probably a little truth to that.
Mm-hmm.
That probably could help the program or help football out a little bit.
Yeah. And they go on in that conversation to talk about, kids, buying their own helmets now. So money's a factor,
Yeah.
outside coaching, everything that goes with every other club sport is now entered into high school, where it used to be you paid your $25, right? And they handed you your uniform, your pads, your helmet, and that's what you got.
Yep.
Now people kind of thrive on bringing they have all their own equipment. They have, we never bought a helmet back in the day. In fact, we didn't even buy baseball helmets, right? Got one out of the bag that the city provided, full of bugs. That's all right.
It's good for you.
So I think money always plays a factor. It's funny. I was looking at the concussions. So the number one based on percentage sport that has concussions is hockey. 12% of all their injuries are concussions. You know what's number two? Snowboarding.
Yeah, that
And
makes
then
sense.
number three, which I consider would be much higher, water tubing. Tubing. You go back to the 80s when my dad took us on a tube or my uncles took us tubing, like it was death or nothing, right? Like if you weren't concussed and bleeding from your nose or your ears, get back on.
Now, I drive for when our kids go tubing, and I will say, isn't that kind of your job as a dad to try to throw your kids and like, get them to do a big jump or like fly them off? I mean, isn't that your job? If they're staying on, aren't you kind of being a little soft on them?
Well, that's just showing off. They're just showing off. I mean, you've
Right.
got to set them in their place.
They're showing you
How
up.
do you go back to the cabin? Yeah, how do you go back to the cabin and sit around the fire and be like, wow, couldn't even throw your kid off, huh? That ain't happening.
No.
That's what the life jacket's for. The life jacket is to keep them afloat, get them out of the water.
Uh, Meanwhile, I'm arguing with my wife,
So
like,
Max,
I never tried to ever throw them.
right? Does this boat go faster?
Yes, go to Max. Sorry.
He's got a question. He just says, with how prominent club teams are, with your own commitment, do you ever see a time when high school teams go away? The kid just play club. I think it started. I think your high level kids
Yeah.
are no longer playing high school. I think it happened at Bayport. One of the better players at Bayport, he's now at Marquette, but he didn't play his final 2 years. I
Yeah.
think there's some sports that overlap. To me, it's a shame.
Yep.
To me, it's you're playing for your community. You're playing, where my daughter can play, and my cousins, if they want to come watch, the family can come see her play because it's all localized. You're not traveling 600 miles. But I do think high school sports is fading, which is crazy because the amount of money being spent on high school sports right now is through the roof.
Yeah. You know what? I would agree with you. I do see a time where this could actually happen. The only thing I will ask on this is please, for everything that's holy, if they're going to do this, at least have one club for your city so that the city can kind of unite around that one club. Whatever it is football, if it's basketball, where you have all these dilution of like, like we've talked about before, where you have 10 clubs and none of them are good, but they all think their club's the best. It's like, I don't want to see that. I would like to see a club where it's a community, like it's the Stevens Point basketball club, and it's all the best players go there and play. If that happened, I could at least stomach it a little bit. Because it would be still community based, but I would like to see it stay with school. I think it's just kind of nostalgic. It's fun. I like that model a little bit better than just a pay to play.
Oh, I agree. I think losing high school sports would be absolutely terrible. I know
Yeah.
there's some younger kids that are talking about when they get to high school, they're not going to play this sport, they're going to play club. And I just think I commend at least soccer for this, that they shut down for spring. I mean,
Yeah.
they're truly, unless you want to go play out of a big city and travel all over the country,
Right.
there is no 2008 Wisconsin Loons team because we all go play sport. And at least I commend for that. Now, is there training on the outside? Absolutely. But that's an add-on. That's not the time filler.
Yeah. Agreed. Cool. Well, yeah, good topic. I mean, it's just something to ponder, something to think about. But yeah, I mean, obviously football is the most popular sport, whether you like it or not, Joe. So, it's one of those things that it's interesting to see it declining a little bit.
Yeah, I think it'll be fine. I still think there's a
Agreed.
huge, it's not what it used to be, right? When you grew up, a lot of kids couldn't wait to play high school football.
Yeah.
Like that was the Friday nights, and now you go to games, and there's 50 kids, supporting their high school team. That used to be the biggest thing in town.
Yeah. Biggest thing. Yeah, for sure.
Now I don't know. I don't know. And I don't know how it is. And I mean, Stevens Point is by no means a small community, but do you guys still get a large portion of fans?
Hey, I'll tell you, this year has been amazing. We've probably hit around the probably around the 2,000 mark pretty consistently. Like there's been a lot of people there. It's been
Wow.
been pretty cool.
You have a lot of people, but fans like students.
Oh, students, I'd say there's probably 100, 150. I mean, you know,
That's pretty good.
decent section. It wasn't too bad. But when you think about there's 2,000 students in our at Spash 9 through 12, and you get 150 to 200, it's like you'd like to see a few more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fallen because I don't know what kids are doing.
Yeah.
They get in trouble.
Most of them are working.
Arrested.
They're working or doing other stuff. It's crazy the amount of kids that work, but it's the way it goes. All right, so hey,
Your oldest work?
my oldest, yeah, he does. He works at a grocery store in town here. Gets a family discount, baby.
You get extra gas points or something?
No, I think it's 10% off. Legit. Yeah,
You got a lot of mouths to feed over there in the Point area.
dang right. So yeah, that's always a good thing.
Oh, that's great.
So there's two things before we close. First of all, think of something unpopular opinion because I got one that I got to share that's timely right now. The other thing is, do you know what date it is today? It's the 25th of October. Do you know what that means? We're right about at our 1 year 1 year anniversary, baby. Yeah. Did you get me anything?
We need to celebrate. Yeah. Forgot to give it to you today, though.
Yeah, me too. I forgot. So yeah.
Hey, here's a good question. If we have any accountants out there, and I don't see any, but do we need to be a small business? Like, if we open a small business, right? This is our podcast. We have a lot of travel coming up. So can we take an ultimate loss this year, write off all our travels? We've talked about this. We write off our travels, take a huge loss, take the deduct, and then next year we'll have to make some money. But for the time being, just ask.
First of all, on a publicly accessible show, we would never file a business just to take the tax write-off. Never.
No, we're just very poor at getting money. Like, we're trying.
Right. So IRS, if you're watching, we would never just do it just to take a tax write-off. We would do it because we think we might have the potential to make this thing go. Right?
Yeah. Well, if we did this in Kansas City.
Right. However, yes, we would be able to write that off. I actually know somebody that they have a travel blog. Not a very good one, but they get to write off all their travel. I mean, it because they actually do put out a travel vlog. It's not super successful, but they then can write off their trips because they make a blog out of it, which is a business. So
If I do it, I suggest you do it too, right? This isn't a.
well, no,
we're both going down.
We would form the LLC together. So then, yes, that would.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, that's a possibility. So anyways, I don't know the exact date. I'd have to look back, but I think we're right because I looked at the date of our first podcast. It usually at that time it took me like 4 or 5 days to publish it. Might even taken a little longer. So I think it was at the end of October. I'm pretty sure we're right on about the year. 42 podcasts later.
What thought, right?
Here we are. Okay, so.
Still trying to churn up 10 people. Love it.
Yeah, I know. The struggle is real. We have to get more controversial. Start calling out people.
I'm ready.
So I've got an unpopular opinion for you, and you might agree with this one. But this time of year, there's nothing I hate more than pumpkin spice. I just don't understand it. Do you realize that if you just went out and like cut into a pumpkin and started eating it, nobody would find that appealing. Nobody would be like, oh wow, pumpkin's so good. It's all artificial flavors and artificial sugars, and then they like, oh, it's pumpkin spice. No, it's not. It's whatever concoction they came up with that they call pumpkin spice, because pumpkin spice is BS. It is BS.
How do we've offended all of our female listeners?
And it is such a girl thing too. It is such a girl thing. Oh my gosh, that don't even get me started on that. But anyways, pumpkin spice. Get out of here.
I think you can take Starbucks and throw them right in that whole thing. Starbucks is the worst chain on earth.
Yeah,
Like, it is a disaster. I hate it. Like, I hate when my kids say we should go to Starbucks because one, it's a $20 bill.
yeah,
Two, you ever order? Did you see the Paul Rudd when he goes to the coffee shop about Grande and
yeah.
Venti and he goes off on the poor girl?
It's awesome.
Fantastic. Because that's how I believe. Whenever I have to go, I order small, medium, large. I will not say Grande. I will not say Venti.
I'm the same way.
I just say small, medium,
I
large.
will not say it.
Yeah,
I will not. Yes, I'm with you.
no way.
Yeah.
I am a $1.04 McDonald's coffee. Use the app, $1.04 every day. Boop. Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, most of those, and now Scooters or
What is the
Scooters
deal?
coffee,
I've never
they're
even heard
popping
of
up
scooters. They just built one.
everywhere.
They just built one right down the road from us. I've never even heard of them, and suddenly they're everywhere.
Yeah. They're like club car washes now. I'm like, I don't know how much money's in this stuff, but Scooters coffee it went from 0 to 100 in this town.
Scooters. So, anyways, I'm with
Give me
you
that
on.
$7 lemonade, please. Yeah.
I'm with you on the scooter. I'm on the Starbucks, or as the kids call it now, Starbies.
Oh, for the love of God. You feel you have to tip everywhere now? I'm not anti-tipping by no means, but you go to Starbucks and they hand you the thing. You go,
Oh
if
yeah,
I'm doing like at the Packer game. The Packer game is all self-checkout now. Literally, you go, open the thing, grab your 24-ounce Diet Coke. Okay,
right.
you walk over and you go, and then you hit your card, and then it says, "Would you like to leave a tip?" Why in the Sam hell would I want to leave a tip?
Dude, this is exactly why I didn't put a tip jar out when we did the ice cream truck. And then the only reason I put it out is so many people complained, and I'm like, whatever, I'll put it out. But I didn't want people to feel obligated to have to give a tip because I'm with you. If it's counter service, unless I'm walking that stuff out to you, it shouldn't be, it's not a tip. I don't leave tips unless you wait me at a table. If it's counter service, I don't leave a tip. And it's not because I don't like tipping. I tip very generously at a counter or when they do the waiting. But I just don't see that. I don't get it. If I'm doing most of the work, yeah, I don't tip. I don't know.
I will say though, if I came to your ice cream truck and I saw your kids working, I would leave a tip.
But it's not
Right?
expected by any stretch because it's counter service.
100%. 100%.
Anyways, yeah.
But you're correct. If you come to the table and the 20% is what I tip. I just do
Yeah,
20%.
agreed.
I don't if you're terrible, you still get 20%. But when did it used to be 12, 15, 18?
Right.
Like those are your choices. Now it's like 18, 20, and like 22. I'm like,
Dude, I saw one I was at counter service in Nashville, Tennessee. We ordered some Mexican foods in like one of these you just walk around and there's a whole bunch, it's like a food market. And I ordered, it was 20, the bottom was 20, it was 30 and 40. 40, 40, $1,000. It was crazy. I couldn't believe it.
plus it's Nashville, right? So your bill wasn't $30. It
No.
was probably
I was
140.
like, what the heck? It was unbelievable. Like, no tip. Bam. They probably spit my food.
Well, I don't want to say like we are not groupies here, right? Like we both take care of our like
Yeah.
you deserve a tip, you're getting a tip.
Yeah. I'm not against it.
It's like, oh Lord, everybody's got their hand out. No, everybody's got their hand out.
Yeah.
Everybody.
I'm with you there, buddy. That's a whole nother topic. We lost all our followers, though, so when they watch this later, they're going to be like, either agree with us or call us this major curmudgeons.
Hey, we haven't made a dime on this bad boy podcast. People start paying up. I'll start tipping more.
There you go. All right, man.
That was fantastic. We actually had some topics tonight.
Yeah, I know. It was good. It was.
To be honest, I think
That's what happens when you prep.
I'd like to hear some. I'd like, I'd like to see some. I'd like to hear opinions on that Carly Lloyd take from different people.
Yes, and I will try to drop a link to both the full interviews. I'll try to remember to do that tomorrow. I'll drop those in the comments here, and then I'll put it in the show notes as well, so you can watch the full thing if you'd like.
Yeah, well, hopefully next show you can join me in your face right here
Yeah,
because
that's
you're
crazy.
not existent.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there,
I mean,
but apparently,
I see you on my computer screen, but you are not there.
yeah. Yeah, give the fans a break. All right, man.
All right, that was fantastic.
Have a good night.
You too. Bye bye.